To recommendations from you to the board members.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Sorry, I need to get into a more formal setting of this board. I'm not used to this, but I'll start with my comments. I think given all the feedback from public and everything that we've heard, I'm quite conflicted in the recommendations I would like to give the board. I'm just going to go down the list of the 4 things that we're considering today that is in our purview. The height, I don't necessarily object to any of the elements that are encroaching into the height envelope. I think they are not going to significantly impact the shadowing or most likely not even going to be seen from the immediate context of the building. Encroachment, it's unfortunate, but it's also minor. And I think it's being used, the encroachments are for elements that are decorative, so in some ways not something that I'm too concerned about in my review of the application. Angle of daylight, I think it's inherent in having a courtyard that there are going to be certain windows that are not going to receive daylight. I think, again, that's one of the things that I think that particular bylaw / consideration wasn't written for a building of this design. FSR, haven't heard a lot about this from staff, and I'm not even sure what questions to ask about it, but I'm assuming that the due diligence has been done to put that this proposal in front of the board with the increased FSR that's being proposed for this application. So yeah, I think if I was to give a recommendation, would be to consider the 4 things that are in the purview of this board and sort of contemplate those. And from a political point of view, I think there's a lot of opposition to this project, which seems to have come from long-term bad faith that has been garnered through the development of the site, in my opinion. And it would be a shame to step on the rights of private citizens and property rights of the owners of the property to deny them the development of this application within the framework of the city's process. Thanks.
Thank you, Tash. Lily, comments and recommendations for the board members.
I would say again within kind of our purview of what we've been asked to weigh in on. I don't have any major concerns about height restrictions or FSR. I think the team has satisfied any concerns I might have regarding sight lines and shadow. I think where my concern lie is in, I guess, the opposition among the local community for how this project has presented. I understand the story of how Chinese were marginalized and asked to enter buildings through the back, and that was part of the cultural history. I think maybe more can be done at the ground level to not marginalize the community population that is using the community space in this luxury building. We don't want to, well, just because it's grounded in that history. Having said that, I'm not against, luxury buildings at all, and I really like the idea of this building coming, or or new development and options coming to Chinatown where the young have options to move in. You know, in terms of preserving the history and culture of the Chinese, I believe, you know, young Chinese need to move into the neighborhood so that the stories and culture can be passed on to the next generation. So development in general is encouraging and will help Chinatown. This development and how it engages the street, I question. You know, its adjacency to the Keefer Triangle. I think more can be done to recognize the significance of that and this site in particular. So, you know, again, in terms of what is in our purview, I can't say I have serious objections to what we're supposed to be weighing in on, but the project as a whole, I would say I would recommend that the architects look at how this building engages the street, the square, and offer more in terms of that entrance to the community and the space in general. Thank you.
Thanks, Lily.
Whatever, Lily.
Michael.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Thank you to the speakers who came and to speak to us. And thank you to the board and staff that you have convened a hearing so the decision taken by the board is made in public and it's transparent. I think that's very, very important. So thank you for doing that. It's been a journey for me to assemble my advice for this proposal. It's been very helpful to read the applicant's design booklet, listen to the public, visit the site, and the precinct, because indeed it's in a precinct. As the Heritage Commission representative, I've considered the three fundamental criteria for considering a new building in a heritage context, and in this case, an important precinct in Chinatown. And that is Sun Yat-sen Park and Gardens, the Memorial Square, and the Chinatown Cultural Center. The three heritage criteria are, when we're looking at an addition or a modern building in a heritage area, is the building distinguishable, complementary, and compatible? Yes, it is distinguishable. So it's not faking heritage, clearly. Complementary, the design of the facade does pick up on the narrow frontages and character of the Chinatown heritage buildings in a thoughtful way. And compatible, I appreciate the sight lines from the Sun Yat-sen Gardens to the east are addressed to minimize the impact of the building on those who are in the park. And as I mentioned earlier, I worked with Joe Wei on guidelines for the Shanghai Alley block to the west, and that was a very, very important issue to respect the sanctity of the gardens. So as I headed into this meeting, I found it helpful that you shared the speech notes for Mr. Cheng, who was the architect for the memorial. So, feng shui. And of course, feng shui is about harmony and balance.
Oh my God.
So as the building would relate to the precinct, the cultural center, the park, and the plaza, I have reservations that this development is in harmony and balance with this precinct. So I do not support the development as proposed, i.e. the proposed increased height and floor space. Now, having said that, I understand that the board may choose to approve the development. So I have my ear to the ground and talked to folks from Chinatown. And one of the things that I heard was a suggestion that there be trees on Columbia Street in a sense to soften the interface in between this building and the gardens. So my suggestion, looking at the 2023 prior to conditions, condition A.2.1, number 4, is that rather than just doing 3 trees, let's consider doing more trees. And that they be planted in trenches, because as I chatted with Lon and worked with Lon on how do we get big trees? We give them more dirt. So I think it's important to have more trees on the Columbia Street frontage. I went to the site. There's a grassy boulevard between the curb and the sidewalk. So 4 or 5 trees instead of 3. And ideally, they'll end up being tall trees because they have lots of dirt. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Michael. Joe, comments?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers and to staff. I was here in 2023 when we reviewed this project. The applicant was sent away to redesign and to address some issues of the day. And I think what I'm seeing before me here is a request for some relaxations, which I consider minor. And in doing so, there's this sort of trade-off, as there always is with design. So the relaxations, exchange from this approved form of development back in 2023, we have an increased atrium, which is higher, wider, which obviously is going to have an impact on the building. But again, in exchange for a bigger, brighter public space. The rooftop access, the design enhancements, they were asked to strengthen the corner element, which they've done. And so I think with everything, I think that the applicants responded to otherwise an approved form of development in 2023, all in keeping with the current guidelines. And so, in summary, I just think it's a thoughtful redesign of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And lastly, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the speakers for coming here and expressing their opinions and comments about the application. And thank you for staff and the applicants for being here and answering our questions. With regards to our purview for this development permit board meeting, I kind of share Hitesh's concern or sentiment about being torn. I know this is a very kind of politically charged application, and there's a lot of opinions about it. It's gone through several rounds of deliberation, and it has a lot of comments and feedback that came through. But with regards to the issues that we're here to discuss today, I think looking at the building height exclusion, I think the applicant has successfully shown that it's not overshadowing the public space, and the sightlines have been considered as well. So there's the privacy is considered for this application, and I think there's no concern about this point. In terms of the relaxation to support the courtyard form, I think the courtyard form is a really great architectural form for living. I think it provides a lot of livability and community within the building. It's great that there is access to the public within the building, and that provides for much better integration into the community. And kind of that entails the horizontal angle of daylight, which is one of the topics we're being asked to comment on. Now I know this has been kind of grandfathered in the current zoning bylaw, so it's not applicable to the new one, and it has been demonstrated that it does meet some of the kind of conditions there in the application. However, I do have some concerns in terms of livability for the secondary bedrooms for some of the units, considering they're kind of tucked away and kind of away from adequate kind of access to daylight and so on. So it's just general consideration for livability for this one. In terms of the encroachment into the public realm, I do think this is a minor request for relaxation, and I don't think there's any concern with that. And in terms of the increased FSR, I think, as far as I understand, there's no stipulated FSR limit on this zone, so there's no concern with that. This is just to cover the courtyard and provide for an all-weather public space. So that there's no concern with this point as well. Now, that being said, I think there's also a lot of being the representative of the general public. I do want to note that there's a lot of concerns from the public with regards to the application. I believe there's a few points that have been mentioned today about gentrification, about general access to public space, and about livability. So I hope that we can kind of consider those within the application. I know these are not within the 4 issues that we're looking at today, but I think they could be included as well in the prior 2 conditions. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Sam. So I just wanted to reflect on all the comments from the advisory members. So thank you for your comments and recommendations and all your time and efforts here to offer your thoughtful comments for consideration of the board. Having said that, I'd also like to reflect back and echo some of the comments of the advisory members to those members of the public who took the time to share their comments and concerns with us. So we will now move to the next sort of final segment of the meeting, which would be discussion and decision by the members of the board. So it's possible that any comments or recommendations that the advisory members have made to the board members might bring a last volley of any questions that might remain for either staff or the applicant team. So I just want to check in on that before we then go to kind of the final deliberations. Lon.
One question to the staff team, I guess, with respect to Michael's comments about the streetscape design on Columbia. I'm assuming, because we do have a big project that the city's funding to kind of improve the Chinatown Memorial Square, which is roadworks all around there. I'm assuming that work could be kind of extended down Columbia to consider those thoughts of the board. Is that something that can happen, or how's the timing?
Yeah, the design for that is currently underway, so I think there was public consultation that took place earlier this year in April. There were 3 concepts, and I think they're trying to narrow it down to 1 right now, but what I've heard is that there are notions of like taking over some of the street space along Columbia and Keefer. But yeah, those have yet to be kind of finalized, but the projected start date for that work would be early 2027.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other last questions from board members to staff or the applicant team? Okay, seeing none. At this point, I'll ask which of the board members want to take the lead in offering their comments to start it off in a motion on the application. Corey.
Yep. So I just want to firstly acknowledge all the speakers that have come to speak over the last 2 meetings. We've heard that many members of the community are in opposition of this project. We've also heard from others who are in support of the project. So I appreciate each perspective and thank those who shared their stories and their connection to this community. We have heard concerns that the development application should not be allowed to proceed as conditions were not addressed by the January 15th, 2024 date. As we heard from staff, applicants may request an extension, which was done in this case, and this is a common practice and supported. There's no requirement to submit a new application as it is in response to the initial proposal. Some speakers also stated that the social housing component was recently removed. In 2017, when the rezoning application was rejected by council, a DP application was submitted under the existing HA 1A zoning, allowing for mixed-use development outright that does not require a social housing component. I just want to clarify that this is not new to this proposal and is not something we were required to make a decision on today. We as the board are here today to make a decision on the changes to the design to address the conditions requested as part of the 2023 DP board. I feel that these conditions have been addressed with these minor relaxations, which I will support.
Thanks, Corey. Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to the staff team, first of all, for all your work on this project, and to the advisory panel for your time, as ever, your expertise, your very thoughtful comments this afternoon. And yes, I'd also like to acknowledge the many public speakers who've come out and speak very passionately and eloquently about this project over the last couple of nights. It's clear, and I appreciate that it raises many concerns for a lot of people. Around affordability, gentrification, the relationship between the building and Memorial Square, and the very sensitive cultural context that the project seeks to sit within, among other issues. And I think it's important we acknowledge that those are important issues, and they are deeply held views that we've heard. But as you've reminded us, Chair, which I appreciate, the scope of our decision today is limited to the exclusions and the relaxations that are required to enable the revised design, rather than the overall principle of the development in terms of land use or housing tenure and affordability or the overall form of the building. And so with that in mind, my view is that I agree with the staff assessment that the revised design is an improvement on the one that the board considered in 2023. I think a couple of points, most notably the new courtyard form with publicly accessible open space and the opportunity for a relationship between that courtyard and Memorial Square is positive. I think that some of the new features added to the design, the cupola, the articulated facade, the colonnade, are all thoughtful in the way they pick up on existing design features in Chinatown and help to anchor this new building in the Chinatown context by picking up on those existing design elements. So I think those are all positive responses to the 2023 conditions. And overall, I think the project does respond well to this significant challenge of incorporating a contemporary building into Chinatown's, again, very sensitive historic cultural context. And I know in that respect that the project was unanimously approved by the Chinatown Historic Area Planning Committee, which I took to be telling in the board report. And I also know that there are quite a number of additional design development conditions proposed, partly in response to the CHAPAC meeting and feedback. And I think there's an opportunity in responding to those, and I would very much encourage the applicant and architect to respond forcibly to those and further improve the contribution of the building to Chinatown's character. And I particularly took Lily's point about the opportunity to further improve the relationship between the building and Memorial Square. So I think there's room for further improvement, but I think the revised design is a significant step forward. And on that basis, I think that the exclusions and the relaxations that are in front of us are justified, and I'm happy to support them. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. It'll magically go red in a second.
I do want to thank all the people that came out to speak to us. It's great to see that level of passion for the city. I wish there was more of that demonstrated on my other projects. This is, from an engineering perspective, this project doesn't ask too much. I think it does a great job. In terms of the architecture and the urban design, I actually trust the professionals in the room. I believe the applicant has a great architect. I think he's particularly talented. In terms of the specifics that were being asked for, the height, the density, again, I kind of trust everyone that said that those are supportable. Particularly the one that usually involves engineering is minor encroachments. And that one I would say I strongly support those minor encroachments. In fact, the design of the look of Chinatown is that the buildings come flush to the property line. They go straight up and they have a cornice. And that cornice technically is an encroachment into city land because it extends out into the street. But that's so strongly supported, I would almost want it to be a requirement as opposed to something that the architect and the developer has to ask for or request and has to be supported. So yes, on the whole, all of the relaxations and requests are supportable to me.
Thank you, Lon. I just want to check in, board members, are there any other further comments? Yes.
Trust that the streetscape design will kind of come together as a whole, and I appreciate the comments from the advisory committee on considerations for Columbia. Thank you.
Thanks, Lon. Yeah, it sounds like Michael wants to work with us again. Thank you. Any further discussions? So with that, does anyone want to take a lead in making a motion for a decision? Looking for that. Board members. On. We have a seconder?
Second support.
Thank you, Corey.
In favor.
In favor. So we have all members in favor. This motion for an approval of the conditions is set with majority. So this application is approved by all, subject to the conditions of approval as set out in the staff committee report. There were no changes to the conditions as contemplated, so that motion is carried. So with that, just a few last comments here. I'd like to thank the applicant and members of the panel for your attendance at the DP board today. Once again, thanking the general public for their time and commitment to this project. Thanks to the staff team for all the work and thoughtfulness that it took to get this brought here to the board today. The meeting is adjourned. It is 6:03 p.m. Thanks once again, everybody.
Chinatown is not for sale. People's power will prevail. Chinatown is not for sale. People's power will prevail. Chinatown is not for sale. People's power will prevail. They say approve, we say fight. Homes for people is our right. They say approve, we say fight. Homes for people is our right. They say approve, we say fight. Homes for people is our right. That's right. Let's hear from Mark. Woo!
Somebody. All right. Well, obviously it's not what we wanted to hear, but it's not a shock. So, I'm Mark. Remember I said something earlier outside at the front. I just wanted to thank everybody so much for the amazing showing this time around. It's been a really, really long time, and I don't want to make it sound like everything's ending now and everything's over. I think we all know that the neighborhood is going to continue to be here. We're not going anywhere. All of the people who were here in opposition, it's not like we suddenly disappear now that they've officially said that they're approving it. Our fight is for Chinatown, and our fight is for affordability. Our fight is for people to have a place of belonging. And these are things that we can continue to fight for regardless of what the city and their illegitimate process is trying to tell us. And I hope that everyone will feel kind of similar to how I feel right now, which is I feel re-galvanized. I thought that I was tired, and I thought that I was so, ready for this to be over. But hearing the way that people who are leading this civic process can just so blatantly ignore the reality that we have shown them really just made that fire even hotter inside me. Like, it's kind of wild. So I hope that I will continue to see all of you as we deal with the fallout and the nonsense from this, but also as we move forward into the future to build a better, more inclusive Chinatown that we can actually live in and enjoy together. So thank you so much, everybody.
I think one of the reasons why we continue to fight is so that our seniors can have a place to age in peace. And we just want to hear some encouragement from long-term activist Sean Gunn to speak to all of us after this decision.
Disappointing, but I don't know, we keep on fighting on, I guess. We're all in touch. It's all keeping this, see what we can do about it and not let them just do this, roll over us, right? That's, I'll keep on the struggle anyway, and there's future issues, we'll get into it, I guess, you know. Okay. Anyway, disappointing. But not unexpected, I guess, you know.
And we always know that this fight is never just about one building, 105 Keefer. It is about Chinatown, it is about the downtown east side, it is about all of us to be able to have a place to live in peace and in dignity. So stay tuned with each other, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We're gonna pick up the fight everywhere we can. I think today it really proves that the only people can take care of us is ourselves. I hope this process shows you that we cannot depend on these illegitimate processes. We are the only one that we can depend on is ourselves. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
All right, let's end with our 105 Keefer anthem. If you have your sheet, let us sing our beautiful song together. 我们一起唱歌啊！1、2、3。Beedie, Beedie, you can hide. We can see your greedy eyes.
係話爆到得應，得罪祖先有報應。
看清奸商尽分开，保护华府我们在。And our traditional chant, which is we will say 团结 and you say 力量大, means together we are powerful. But today we're going to add one more line. If you look at chant number 7, it says 团结力量大，再难都不怕. Together we are powerful, and no matter how hard, we will not be afraid. Let's do it together. 1、2、3，团结力量大，再难都不怕。团结力量大，再难都不怕。Chinatown is not for sale. People's power will prevail.
Chinatown is not for sale. People's power will prevail.
Last one. They say approve, we say
Right.
Homes for people is our
right.
All right.